am with my friend today, Phillip Washington. He is owner of, is it Stonehill
Wealth
Wealth?
management. Yep. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Look, you remembered it better than most. Some people call it stone wealth management. So no, I appreciate that.
And Phillip and I used to have long conversations on Fridays. And sometimes we agreed and sometimes we disagreed, but that's what made it interesting and fun. I love visiting with Phillip. And so that's what we're going to do today. We kind of have a place on where we want to go, but we're just going to start off just talking about stuff in general. So, and right before we hit record, we were talking about the effects of COVID.
Yeah, yeah. And we were also talking about how this, you know, the strategy, right, that you and I were talking about 5-6 years ago, were strategies now that people who survived COVID and really thrived during COVID use, and how it's going to get worse because COVID, it really accelerated some of the technological trends that were already happening. It just made it more difficult to hide.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's that. I think the next 10 years for business owners who put their head in the sand is it's going to be stressful. Yeah, I think specifically, and you're a historian too. I like to study like different periods of time, right? Just weird periods of time, like when we invented like when the gun was invented, or when you invented when people learn how to ride horses. What is it called? The stirrup, right?
Yep.
That kind of changed the game for knights, right? And then you think about like in America when we went from like farming to industrial. That was painful for a lot of people because those who didn't embrace change suffered. And so I think that's what we're in the middle of, going from the real world to a digital world.
Yeah, and that's the fourth industrial revolution. And I talked about it last year. And I think that, again, just like what we've said, COVID really has forced us into it faster. We were already in the midst of it, but and it changes everything. There's not one thing that it doesn't change. And that's the most interesting part. It's not just one industry, it's all industries. So and it's a hard transition for a lot of people. Very hard.
Yeah, but like we were talking about before, I mean, and I know you feel this way, so I'm asking a rhetorical question, but don't you see it as exciting too? I guess it depends on how you're looking at it.
Yeah, see, I love it. I love change. And to me, this is a great opportunity to look at what you're doing now, no matter who you are and what it is that you do, and go, okay, how can I embrace this? What can I do? It's an opportunity to get ahead of the pack, to get a competitive edge. So yeah, I think it's a great time, but it's really scary for most people.
And I can understand. I definitely can understand.
Yeah, it's like the other thing that I think about is civilization, and I've talked about this before, but if you go back and look at the Sumerians, which was the first civilization, like 5,000 years ago, and the demise of that civilization and what took them down, a lot of it we're experiencing today, which I don't understand why people won't go back in time and look at history and go, okay, well, what happened then? Just like what you were just saying, it's like, we've done all this before. Humans have experienced this stuff before. Why not go back and look and look for your clues,
Right. No, yeah. That's one of the things that I really like, when you, and this is like super like out there in space, but I just really believe when you study like physics and the way atoms work and the way the universe works, and the repeatable theme is you have birth and you have death, right? And you have like the cycle of life, and like everything experiences it, but I also think if you think of like humans as a societal body, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we tend to kill off our civilization, you know, and just redo the same thing over and over again, right? All babies do the same thing, all grown-ups do the same things. And I'm like, we just, you know, you read history, like we just keep doing the same things over and over
Over
and
and
over
over.
again, right?
Yeah.
Even in a world where we have unlimited information, we just keep
Yeah.
repeating.
Well,
So,
that's like just like back in the, 5,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, they were as advanced as we are today through with technology and everything. They've uncovered all kinds of, I mean, it's crazy how advanced they were, but they even knew about DNA.
wow.
But you look at how every time it's like we crash and burn, we crash and burn, and we keep repeating, and it's because of human nature that gets us. That's what brings us all down is our human nature.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's talk about in your wheelhouse a little bit here. I want to talk about inflation and some of the stuff that's going on. I mean, my gosh, we've got kind of the perfect storm with the supply chain, labor shortages. They're calling it the greatest resignation this year with people just checking out. So we got a lot of stuff going on. How does that affect us financially?
In a huge way. So I'll, you know, and I want to always preface this because a lot of my talks have seemed super political nowadays, but it's not. It's just I just speak, you know, facts, right? I like to always say, you know, Republicans in general get the economics right. Democrats are, you know, they're the heart of society, right? They you know,
You're right.
they
Yeah.
make sure we don't just do only rational things, and so you know, from an economic, you know, standpoint, um, when you look at America early 1900s, going through the, and you know, still through the Industrial Revolution, you if you were a UK citizen, right, you were looking at America going, hey, we're the stable place of the world. You know, we have the privilege, like if you live in the UK, right, you get to enjoy the privilege of being a UK citizen and under that empire. And then they would look across at these Americans that were, you know, unruly, you know, very volatile, you know, no class according to the
Yes.
UK citizens, right? Everything I say about millennials today, right?
Yeah.
But they were the millennials, like, right, of that time, but innovating, you know, creating electric homes, automobiles, you know, refining oil, you know, replacing kerosene with electricity, doing all these innovative things, pulling the world forward. And but that change was, you know, was nerve-wracking. Here's where I'm going. You know, UK was at the end of their economic cycle, so they had lots of debt, right? Same as America today, lots of debt, especially after World War I, right? They were basically like super broke after that. And the weird part too is they had the 1915 the flu pandemic. It was 1918, 1920, the Spanish flu, which really wasn't a Spanish flu. It was a worldwide flu, but the Spanish newspapers were only ones that were reporting on it. But it further crippled them. So you had World War I, then you had the Spanish flu, which killed a bunch of people, right? And then you had crazy inflation in the 20s, which basically same thing. The countries were indebted. Everybody was printing money like they're drunk, right? So when you print all that money, it causes price rises and it creates an illusion of wealth. People thought they were getting rich, you know, with their real estate and their trading until 1930. Let them realize that that was all fake money created out of thin air. From a business standpoint, you know, the business owners that in that environment that were able to increase their prices, right, pass along prices to consumers because the demand for their business was so high. If they did that and then converted their money to hard assets, they were fine, right? If they believed the myth of this fake wealth being built, right, and or they put their head in the sand, and they couldn't raise prices. I mean, they got crushed. I mean, obliterated. And then they turned to trading to get this illusionary wealth. It's funny I'm saying that because that's happening right now. Like there's people who are struggling, and they're thinking, well, I'll trade, you know, to make up some money. And I'm like, this is fake wealth. This is fake money right here. You know, like a lot of these gains are completely fake because the 40% of the dollars that have ever been in circulation were printed in the last 18 months. It's crazy, right?
Wow.
40. And this is why I put the political preference on there, because I've learned over time, the more I've got savvy on finance, don't trust the politicians, any of them, right or left, because they all lie. You know, they're saying that, you know, the ports are the issue, but the ports are the symptom of the issue, right? You can't put 40% more cars on the highway, you know, during traffic time and not have a jam, right? You know, so when you create 40% more dollars, you know, out of literally thin air and put it in the system, you know, what do you expect? Price of labor goes ridiculous. Real estate goes ridiculous. You know, people are buying stuff in advance, you know, because the smart treasurers of corporations and companies and the money folks, they understand what this means. You know, it's just, you know, they're creating this narrative to fool the uninformed, right? But me and you know what's going on, you know. So that's what's happening. You know,
so based upon that, on what you just said, what should someone do today? Whether you're in business, own a business, or just personally, what should someone be doing?
Yep. So I think you definitely want to, like I said, it's an opportunity, but you want to put yourself in a position where if you own a business, how do I create more demand for my business, which means you have to be different. So if you're a realtor, as an example, like, you know, your services are perceived as a commodity, right? So doing the old way of, you know, whatever, cold calling, doing whatever, it's not going to work. You got to be different. So maybe you start a podcast, you know, maybe, or a YouTube channel, but you get out there and you talk about your value in a way that nobody else talking about your value, and take advantage of it. If you are if you sell goods and services and you don't have a Shopify store, you don't have an internet presence, that's a big mistake, because you open, you know, you can still have a shop in Mansfield and service the 100,000 or so people in the area, but you can open up a Shopify store and then have 8 billion potential customers to supplement what's happening locally. And I think, you know, a lot of business owners would be shocked how many, you know, 20, 30, I mean, 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 17-year-olds that are cleaning up online because of the ability to, you know, buy something, because in most business owners that have survived, they're good at what they do, so they can find good product. But the difference is when you put it on the internet and you open that up to 8 billion people, you know, I'll buy stuff on the internet that I know is overpriced because I don't want to go. You know what I mean? It's easy, it's convenient.
It's easy. Me too.
Yeah. And so you get to arbitrage that money making opportunity. So there's unlimited ways to creatively do things different, but then the other part is make sure when you get your money that you, like, leaving a bunch of money in cash is going to kill you.
Thank you. That's what I've been saying. Yeah, it's like because one day, now I don't know if you agree with me on this or not, but I think one day we're going to wake up, turn the news on, and guess what? The dollar crashed.
I think that's a high probability assumption.
Yeah.
And I think it'll happen faster than what people think.
Yeah. I think, well, definitely in our lifetime.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so. So you want to own things that are scarce, you know, like real estate, like gold. There's a select few stocks that you want to own, but the other thing is you also want to own. And this is why I talk about Bitcoin so much, because, you know, Bitcoin is the, you know, boomers, right? They lived through the 70s and they appreciated the protection of what gold did to preserve your wealth in the 70s.
Right.
So millennials, you know, we said, well, the boomers were super smart, so we want to learn from them. So I threw that in there. Boomers are smart. We're
Yeah.
going to learn from them.
Thank you.
But what we want to do is we want to, the thing about gold, and this is going through history, what you learn is that governments have consistently, because when you have gold, it protects purchasing power, but you still have to put it in the bank and have those dollar certificates issued against the gold, because gold is not very divisible, right? You can't just shave off gold to pay for printing services or legal services. So you have to typically put it in the bank. This is assuming society is functional, right? Not in chaos, but put it in the bank, and they issue you dollars that you can that you were supposed to before 1971 be able to redeem for gold, which you can't anymore, which is a whole story. But every time we reset a financial system in the past back onto a gold standard, they would just come off the standard whenever they want to when they needed to print more money. And so Bitcoin said, hey, let's create digital gold. So we're going to create the scarcity, 21 million. Just like gold, like, a monetary system. So basically, like, it can't be, it's scarce and it can't be manipulated because Bitcoin is divisible by 100 million Satoshis. And I know this is nerd stuff, but meaning you can transact in Bitcoin, or there's technology built on top of Bitcoin called Lightning, where you can transact that. But the point is, you don't need paper money. You can use it like PayPal or Cash App or Zelle. And there's no need for banks, intermediaries, and there's no 12 central bankers who can do what they want behind closed doors and create more money. So that's why you look at something like Bitcoin, it's $60,000, which is crazy, right? I mean,
yeah,
one Bitcoin is worth $60,000. I was like, but also Bitcoin is different than other stuff. So I think some people, even the kids, they're looking at crypto, and I'm like, I don't really care about crypto. Like crypto is more like stocks. That's like possibility, right? I'm more looking at preserving my wealth. So I'm saying gold, real estate, Bitcoin, because these things are scarce. Crypto is not. You can't recreate what Bitcoin has done, this isn't a Bitcoin podcast, but I'm giving the context of this is why you see the banks being pulled into it. Is why you see Governor Abbott and Senator Cruz hopping on board with Bitcoin, because Texas has always been independent, freedom fighters. And they're like, yeah, man, the government's getting crazy, so we need to protect our wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it all so fascinating. And it's interesting to me, the people that continue to ignore it. I don't get that.
Yeah. No, it's but that's human nature, right? Human beings. I don't think it's not that we don't like change. I don't think we like the emotions that come with change, because those emotions are, they're intense either way, like super exciting or super fearful, unknown, uncertain, creates opportunities. But I mean, I understand it, but the reality is, like, you have to embrace it, especially because if you hate government, right? Which I don't think I think both sides of the party don't like government telling them what to do. But if you get sideswiped by change, you're going to have to depend on the government.
If you think about it, and this is what freaks me out. If you think about how every facet of our life is dependent upon the government, think about it. I mean, just to get through your day. I mean, all of your food. I mean, if you think about all the stuff that we are so not self-reliant anymore, it's really kind of pitiful, because they really have more control than what you think they do. We just think we're free.
I 100% agree. And this is like a revolutionary idea. I don't think you and I have ever talked about this, but it wasn't until this year where I was like, wait a minute, government, if I take out more than 10 grand of my bank account, I got to get the approval of the government. That's my money, right? And so So I began to study like separate, when the church separated from the state, whenever the printing press was invented, right? Before that, religions told us what to think, we were all illiterate, right? And
Yes.
the few people who can read, they ruled us. And then the printing press was invented, and we were like, hey, things aren't what, I can read this for myself, right? So then you have the Age of Enlightenment.
Yeah.
Like, here's what when going back to Bitcoin, we're going to look back on Bitcoin and realize this is when separation of state and money happened, because with the blockchain technology being decentralized like Bitcoin, you literally don't need the state, and there's no reason for them. They don't have an argument for why they need to. Now they have to be honest about why they want to control the money, right? Because it's functioning money. It's better money, right? If I ask somebody, hey, would you rather play a game where the rules could be changed in the middle of the game, right? And typically those rules are favored by people who are closest to the referee, right? Or it's a game where the rules will never be changed. They're stated, and you can play the game with full confidence that the rules will never be changed, right? People be like, I want to play a game too. I'm like, that's Bitcoin. I was like, that's a decentralized monetary system. And I was like, it's no doubt better money, right? The only doubt is people saying, will the government allow it?
Yeah.
The church tried to stop the printing press. It didn't work, right? Progress is always gonna like outpace the incumbents. Will it be painful in the meantime? Yeah, but where I'm going with it is, you have a technology where we don't need church and state, and so that is like that is exciting for me, because it's gonna remove for future generations, like the way we look back and we think, man, the church control people like that. I think 100 years from now, they're going to look back and say, wait, the church, the government used to control the money? Like, I really believe that, because the tech, like once you understand the tech, you're like, oh, we don't need the government, like at all, like period, for money. So
I don't know. It's going to be, I mean, I agree with you, what you're saying, and I hope that is true. I just see government more and more trying to grab a hold of everything they can in order to control the masses. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, no,
they got to control us. Yeah,
and they will try. But you know what I believe too? You have people like me who, chamber members know, they follow me on social media. They know typically I was liberal leaning, right? I've always been center of the road, but you have a lot of people in my generation who are conservative historically, or are liberal, but we're all awakened, enlightened, and we all are rallying around one issue, because like at the current parties just want control, right? But I will vote for a candidate who's pro Bitcoin, because I don't care about anything else. Like, if you're going to vote away your power knowingly or unknowingly over the money, right? Cool. You're a friend of mine, right? I want to see you win. And so you see Andrew Yang, who left the party to try to get the crypto people. You see Senator Cruz, right? He's smart. I see what he's doing. Like, he's getting ready for his run in 2024, because he's going to be the Bitcoin guy, the crypto guy. And the millennials are a bigger generation than the boomers, right? And if you're smart, you're like, the boomers are going to die eventually. So if you're looking for that sounds bad, right? But if you're looking for a long-term career, a lot of them are wising up and getting smart and saying, wait, these kids care about, crypto. So, people act in accordance to their incentives. So it's like, you can either fight the system, which, the incumbents are doing, or you can say, I only part of the new system, because if you do study history, the young lion eventually takes the old lion out, right? We don't know time frame, but the old lion eventually like loses, and so that's,
well, that's the end of that story.
yeah. But I think 2024 will be Biden's going to lose for sure, right? And I'm fully confident that the winner will be a crypto believer. I'm excited for that, because I don't care what party they are. I'm like, cool. I'm voting for the crypto person.
Gosh, I wonder though what's going to happen in 2 years between now and then. That's what kind of concerns me. Is 2 years is a long time for a lot of stuff to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Biden's gonna give away a bunch of money.
Yeah,
you know that he's gonna try to buy some votes.
Well, yeah, that's the. I mean, I heard this morning listening to the news that, they're going to try to push that vote through. I don't know.
Yeah, we will see. But I think more and more people are being enlightened. Even I won't spend anybody, but even people closer to me, where when I was moving, even further, more fiscally conservative than I was, they were, and I had different views on COVID than they had. But they slowly are like, yeah, Phillip, you're right. We can't do mandates.
Yeah.
I'm like, because I'm vaccinated, but psychologically, like if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. You and me both.
but that's human nature, So
yeah.
I'm like, people looking at the math and they're going, man, like more people die of starvation, every year than of this. So, and
it's all about control.
Yeah. And
it's, they're priming the pump.
Right. And maybe I'm not that far down the road yet, but, but I more think that there's just a, this is there's no nice way to say it. They're just not as smart as we think they are. I think in their mind, they're thinking we want to restore confidence so that we could get the economy going again, so we can get more taxes, because when things are slowed down and people are not traveling, we got less tax revenue and the deficits are getting big. So they're like, if you ever seen somebody who's in big financial trouble and they just made bad decisions,
yeah,
they know that the jig is up financially. And so they're like, how do we get the economy going and give people confidence?
See, you know what I think? I think you're right. I think that they've known for a long time that the gig is up, and they know that we have gone past the point of no return. And I think that all of the new congressmen that go to Washington, they go with these very idealistic, I'm going to make change and it's going to be better. And then they get there and then they go, wait a minute, let us tell you the real deal. Here's the deal. We're in trouble. And none of us are strong enough or have the willingness to stand up and commit political suicide to fix it. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to write it down. So I almost feel like they know the answer is they have to crash the dollar. Mm-hmm. Because once they crash the dollar, you can fix it then, because you've affected everybody at the same time. Yeah. So there's no that levels the field, and now you can redo or restart or whatever. But that is the only restart button we have, is to crash that dollar.
You're 100% right. There's a book that I read called the Navigating Big Debt Crisis. It's written by Ray Dalio. It's huge, and so it's 3 different books. First book, he walks you through like a prototypical debt cycle. So this does it for nerds, but it's kind of like, here's how the body works, because all economies work the same way. Mm-hmm. And then the second book is more detailed, and then the third book inside of it, or the third part, is like he does like 59 different countries debt cycles with all the charts and graphs and math that us nerds need. And what you learn is, like I said, 100% economies fail, and 100% of the time, and failing means like, energy is the heart of an economy. So you got to have, with no energy, an economy dies, right? Mm-hmm. And money is the blood, so you need blood to do its work. So you look at Venezuela, which is an energy rich country, but mm-hmm. everybody's poor right now because the blood isn't working. They got the energy, but the money's gone, right? And so economies die. And what ends up happening is at the end of that debt cycle, there's 2 ways to restart. You either default, right? So 100% of the time in the past, no matter if it's Rome, or whoever, they either default, or if they're the reserve currency like the dollar, they print lots of money, which is basically defaulting. So they say, if I owe $100 trillion, I'm gonna over time slowly and non-noticeably print $100 trillion to pay back that debt. So it's like fake money,
yeah.
But it's really money that's kind of, the people who pay for it are people who are saving in assets that pay less than the inflation rate. So savers, bond yielders, people who are pension owners. So the people who are specifically, like even the boomers who are mostly reliant on Social Security or pension plans. The stated inflation rate was 5%. Real inflation rate was like 12 or 15% in the last 12 months. But so when they give them this 5% bump, they're still 7% short, and so they play it out over a period of time, and it makes them, it's kind of like the people that Trump masterfully appealed to, the people who lost their manufacturing jobs to China. Like me as an American, I can't understand their anger, because I'm like, inflation didn't affect me the way it affected them, right? Because I'm in a job where it wasn't outsourced. So my cost of living outpaced, or my income outpaced cost of living versus theirs. It did not, because their jobs went overseas. But this is how it feels to somebody if your savings and your career doesn't keep pace with the cost of money printing, right? You get left behind. But 100% of the time, they defaulted and they inflated away. But there's no reason for the U.S. government to default, right? Because we're the reserve currency. You can just print more money and nobody knows what's going on, right? They just, one political party blames one side, the other blames the other, and people just are mad and enraged and unfocused. And I'm like, look, the focus is on the money. The money is the problem, right? It's like we need a blood transfusion. You know what I mean? Because the blood is bad. The money is bad.
Yeah, the root of all evil, right? Well, see, and I'm going to end with this, but there's they're talking about this new economy, and it's called the Barbell Economy. And this is what's going on, is that you used to have like 3 equal circles as far as an economy, and by groups of people. And now what they're saying is that you have one large circle on one end that is the higher wage earners, those that are making very, very good money. Then you have on the other end, same equal size, the lower job skills, the lower paying money. And then in the middle, you used to have your middle class. Well, now it's been shrunk down to this because of what's going on. And so it's now this new barbell economy. So it's kind of interesting, but I don't see it playing out too well.
Depending on where you are, right?
Depending on where you are.
I definitely think American privilege is over. I think American had a lot of privilege in the world because in a non-digital economy, and in an economy where dollars are reserve currency and everybody has to save in dollars to buy oil, which is a whole conversation, we get the privilege of having a built-out middle class, like you're saying. But now we have to compete globally in a digital world with everybody else, which is net better. But if you're an American relying on privilege, no, it doesn't.
Yeah. See, and that's the other transition we're going through, right? So lots of change. Yeah. Phillip, I am so glad that you could visit with me today, and we're going to have to do this again.
I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
I know. All right. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay. Bye.